Total Improvement Management. Business processes are the life stream of your business operations and determine your financial performance. Today's processes are increasingly more complex, full of deep, interdependent, and entwined interactions across multiple systems, affecting information creation and flow, and directly affecting productivity and output. If you're not effectively managing your operations and don't have an enterprise-wide improvement management program in place, you're probably losing market share and future earnings are trending negative. To thrive in today's environment, you must have a business solution in place that is totally integrated with your overall enterprise processes, a total solution. Harrington Group International's Total Improvement Management process consists of the most comprehensive and complete approaches to performance improvement software on the planet. Quality management and business process improvement are not just part of the game, it is the game. Harrington Group International, HGI, has been a global leader in business process management and ISO compliance initiatives for many decades. We were the world's first innovators in this space, and we continue to be the leader today. Since we began, Harrington Group International has provided systems to a remarkable 80% of the Fortune 1000. That's right, and with this solid history, HGI continues to deliver successful business solutions to more than half of today's corporate global leaders. In partnering with our clients, we create long-term relationships and deliver significant value year after year. If your company is experiencing too many customer complaints, too much scrap, too many field failures, or it's becoming difficult to monitor performance or fix systemic problems, that's a clear indication you need help from Harrington Group International and Total Improvement Management. We help our clients to organize and improve system-wide critical business processes, from product design to final product implementation. With our systems deployed throughout your enterprise, you can be assured your financial performance will be positively impacted, and your customers will come to know your company as the most consistent and reliable provider in your industry space. In addition to enterprise-wide product quality and business process improvements, we also offer programs for business intelligence, environmental management, occupational health and safety, security assurance, as well as project and enterprise risk management. If your challenges are to dramatically improve customer satisfaction, reduce the cost of quality in your business, conform to increasingly stringent ISO and government compliance standards and regulations, and most importantly, to dramatically improve your growth and your financial performance, you've found your answer. Harrington Group International. HGI Business Solutions. We promise a lot and we deliver. Contact us today for a free assessment of your business solutions and learn more about Total Improvement Management.
We're frequently asked to come in and help an organization establish an ISO system, whether it's environmental or whether it's quality or whether it's safety, and asked to help them develop a quality manual or a safety manual. We don't like to do that. We think that's the wrong thing to do. We think that what you need to do is have an operating manual where safety and quality is all tied in with the way you operate. And what we actually do is we'll come in and develop a complete operating manual that will bring everything together so that we lace in the quality system, the environmental system, and the safety system into everything we do. So you have good procedures that you go to one central spot for the total operations instead of having separate operation manuals in every individual type of activity. That's to me a very important facet, that you bring quality into the operation rather than having it separated from the operation. Challenge you, if you've had a problem you've been working on for a year and you haven't been able to solve it, give us 2 weeks. We have a technology that will show you how to solve those most difficult problems, the ones that bother you year after year after year, and get a quick answer to it. Give us a chance. I'll give you a miracle.
And now for our next speaker, which I'm excited to have with us here today, Dr. Dennis J. Kulonda. Dr. Kulonda is a seasoned academic leader and manager. Dr. Kulonda also has a strong record of academic leadership and new enterprise development. In addition to challenging private sector responsibilities in marketing, consulting, and management, he has served as Dean of an AACSB accredited College of Business and Director of multiple off-site campuses. He earned his PhD in Industrial Engineering and Economics from North Carolina State University and engineering degrees from Cornell and General Motors Institute. And now I present to you, on strategic planning, Dr. Dennis Kulonda.
Okay, well, hey, thank you, Rick, for including me in this program. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to speak to such a great audience on the topic of strategic positioning. I really go back to, as Stephen Covey says, we want to begin with the end in mind. So this is how I've positioned the program. Here's where we want to end up. Some time ago, Michael Porter, who really articulated the position of strategic planning, made the following statement: a company can outperform rivals only if it can establish a difference that it can preserve, and that's become known as a sustainable competitive advantage. I'd like to show you what he meant by that. Here's an example of a sustainable network. This comes from Michael's determination to draw an activity network to describe a strategy. So here's an airline, and it competes on a different paradigm from the one that was established in its time some 10, 12 years ago. It limited passenger service. It had frequent, reliable departures with lean crews, 15-minute turnaround. They used all the same aircraft so that maintenance costs were minimized, extremely low ticket costs, and short point-to-point hauls, in contrast to the hubs that most of the major carriers of the time prescribed. This company, of course, is Southwest Airlines. Some 12, 15 years later, you can see it still thrives. Its system has defied imitation. By and large, Continental tried to copy it with Continental Light. It was a total failure because they could not obtain the focus. AirTran emulated it and did quite well. Now they belong to it. As you can see, AirTran is now a part of Southwest. It's been very successful. Something I'd like to point out, their logo includes a heart, and their stock symbol is LUV. There's a reason for that, and we'll talk about that as we get further in the presentation. Southwest competes on its operational efficiency. It does everything right, no frills, no meals, just get the job done. But operational effectiveness is not really a strategy. It's part of a strategy, and what we have to work toward is strategic positioning, which, unlike operational effectiveness, which is doing the same thing everybody else does, only better, cheaper, faster, operational excellence, which is this particular strategic position, means doing things a lot more cleverly or doing things in unique ways so that you're able to create a system that's much more difficult to replicate. There are many examples of operational effectiveness. You've seen many of them. Enterprise resource planning systems try to work everything out practically the same way for everybody. Total quality management is an operational effectiveness endeavor, which is fabulously important, has been a main ingredient, but as we will shortly see, total quality management, while you can't compete without it, it can't be your leading discipline because everyone else has it. Everyone worked toward quality management. Sony used to be able to compete on quality. They can't anymore. Everybody else has similar quality. JIT, lean, time-based competition, continuous improvement, all of the operational effectiveness techniques can be easily emulated. In contrast, what I mean by operational excellence is creating a network, much like Southwest Airlines did, where you have effective core processes that are supported by deliberately focused management systems, information technology, and an organization, and a culture that's tied into that particular mode. That notion, although it started certainly with Michael Porter, was advanced a little bit by some folks named Mike Tracy and Fred Worsema, who articulated in a best-selling book, at least the best-selling business book, 3 positioning strategies that they claimed gave the best and most consistent results, and they were best total cost, best product, and best total solution. The point, however, is we can't be all things to all people. We can't do everything, so we need to sort through this and decide how we'll arrive at one of the 3 value disciplines that Tracy and Worsema proposed. Operational excellence, which I just talked about a little bit, like a Walmart or someone like that. Product leadership, as in Apple, or customer intimacy, as in a variety of smaller companies, in some boutique financial firms. Danny Wegman's grocery chain are all examples of companies that compete on customer intimacy. We have to, in developing a strategy, look at all 3 of these value disciplines. We can't ignore excellence and efficiency. We can't ignore superior products. We can't ignore working closely with the right customers, and we've got to attain thresholds on all of them, but we have to pick one that we excel in. Here's an example of the 5 core processes that are involved in an operational excellence strategy. I don't want to go through these line by line, but I do want to give you a flavor of the differences. In an operational excellence strategy, the core processes are focused obviously around product delivery. An organization to support that may be highly centralized, certainly a lot of discipline, a lot of communication, a lot of rapid transmission of ideas, and certainly products and services. Information technology to support that, a management system that's designed toward repeatability and predictability. So we end up with a culture that's very teamwork, very discipline-oriented. Compare that with the kind of core processes that might be in an Apple or a Dell, where innovation, commercialization, disjoint work procedures, an ad hoc organization like Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, high skills but loose-knit structures, big contrast with the organizational excellence competitors. Information technology, but supplemented by a lot of person-to-person communication, decisive management systems, an entrepreneurial attitude, and a culture that's very much geared toward finding the right sweet spot and running with it. And the third value discipline, got ahead of myself there. The third value discipline is the customer intimacy one that may not have been as familiar, but there our core processes are focused on client acquisition, nurturing new clients, developing unique solutions that are tailored to those specific customer needs. An organization that does that has very talented people out in the field. The information technology is a lot of linking of information. Management systems are based on success, and the culture is very field-driven and a very have-it-your-way mindset. So these are very different organizations. Let me give you some examples of how these ideas apply. And the take-home point here is not argument about any of the specific line items or what specific trait is involved in each discipline. The real takeaway I want you to think about is that they are uniquely different, and that if you have an organization that excels in one dimension, that must rule your culture. So here's some examples of things we've done. Here's a company, United Data Technologies. They are a systems integrator, a value-added reseller, and one of their focuses on education systems. They would appear to be a customer intimacy company because they focus on children, teachers, on making the classroom more effective by providing access to new technologies for learning, but it goes beyond that. UDT certainly has to compete for customers, but surprisingly, we found that they really compete on operational excellence. How do they do that? They, in order to win a major contract, they created a imaging center and a distribution center where their major mainframe supplier, or I should say personal computing supplier, Hewlett-Packard, shipped the computers to UDT. They then imaged them, tailored them, tweaked them, integrated them with partnering technologies and AV and many other services, and then delivered them to the school. And in doing this, they created some mass imaging techniques that made them more efficient than their competitors, and they transformed that into a sales advantage because many of their customers had to justify bidders based on lowest bid. UDT was able to persuade potential customers that they had the far superior operational effectiveness that would enable anybody to have very difficult times competing against them, even if they had similar products. So here's an example of a company that ostensibly would be a customer intimacy competitor, but what really has to excel in its delivery system is operational excellence, so that it can demonstrate to the customer whose manager wants to see the lowest bid that it has a system that is capable of providing the best service and the best cost, even though it's assembling pretty much standard marketplace components. Here's another example, Wayne Fire Sprinklers, or Wayne Automatic Fire Systems. This is a company here locally that has branches all throughout the Southeast. They competed on being good old boys, frankly, and offered superior service and were selective in their clients, and were growing like crazy, especially with the building boom, where they were able to persuade potential customers that their services were a minor part of construction costs, but could be a major impediment to fire inspection and occupational permits, etc. And Wayne did pretty well until the construction boom ended, and they had never articulated their strategy. They just lived it. We were able to show them that they were really a customer intimate competitor and enable them to begin to win the business by servicing existing clients, updating their fire systems, and that enabled them to compete effectively with much larger companies. Here's a third example. Systems Plus provided a unique man-machine system, if you will, an information system when integrated with the proper human thought, entrepreneurship, and technology greatly improved timely shipping capability, but they had a difficult time explaining that to the marketplace, and we discovered that all of their existing sales, of which there were certainly a significant number, came from entrees, and so we have shifted them from doing marketing to companies to marketing to consultants and trusted advisors, so that those people who have well-established client relationships can get them in the door to present their very persuasive case. So the main point is that all of these are different strategies and require different organizations, different thoughts. For example, if you look at the value propositions going across the top, for operational excellence, we're talking about best total cost, product leadership, customer intimacy is the best total solution for that customer. So the golden rule, if you will, at least according to Tracy and Wersima, would be, and this is their material, solve the client's broader problem for customer intimate companies, cannibalize your success with breakthroughs like Apple and their decision on whether to drop the iPad as their platform. Operational excellence, I'm not sure I agree with this one. This is for the golden rule is variety kills efficiency. In the case of UDT, they were able to provide a lot of variety and still mechanize the process. So again, the point is not the accuracy of these individual bullets, but the different strategies that are involved. And we'll get to the issue of how you flesh out these strategies in your situation. So core processes are different in terms of end-to-end product delivery for the operational excellence provider, commercialization for the product leadership provider, customer intimacy, client acquisition, and solution development. Improvement leaders are problem expertise, as in consulting companies, product leadership in terms of product technology, improvement levers in operational excellence, or just in time and continuous process improvement. Major improvement involves just making a big jump to an entirely different product or a new technology or a total solution in paradigm. All of these are different for each different type of competitor. So getting back to my original proposition, or I should say Michael Porter's original proposition, a company can outperform rivals only if it can establish a difference that it must preserve. What we're adding to the soup is that you must excel in at least one position, and not that Porter didn't say that, but we have to maintain threshold positions in the others. We have to separate and understand order winners versus order qualifiers. So along that way, to start to do that, we have to create and implement a value proposition in a way that is systemic. We combine parts that are consistent, they reinforce, and we work on optimizing the entire system, not just the parts. And that's the difference between one of these strategies and a strategy of better, cheaper, faster. So we are aimed at strategic fit, and that's what's involved in getting there. This was an example. We started off with the Southwest Network, and that is the key, that all of their activities are integrated, and that has been sustainable. It's a lot harder for a rival to match something like Southwest has done, or to match Apple, than it is to copy someone's process, copy the latest fad, copy the latest idea from human resource systems. We have to put together a system so that we can get the same sustainability. That's what strategy is all about, creating a fit among the company's activities, doing them well, and keeping them tied together. Where do we start to accomplish this? Well, we have to start with a big picture of the business. What's the business environment? What do we see out there? What are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and trends? What's your current strategy? How does it compare to reality? Is it working? So we begin by saying, for the business that we're in now, how do we compete? Do we compete on best product, lowest price, best service, lowest overall cost? We need to isolate the reality of all this, and that's probably the most important thing here, that all of this effort has to be sustainable, and it has to be an arduous journey, and there has to be no spin. So, what business are we in? What do we provide? What customer segments? How do we differentiate ourselves from the many competitors that are out there? All part of this self-examination. Equally important, what business are we not in? What don't we sell? What customer segments do we not care about? Where are we in this whole process? To get to a new system, we've got to develop an overall vision for the destination, for where we want to be. We start with a compatible value proposition, and I'll talk a lot about that, and then we proceed to say, all right, what resources do we need to get there? Can we really get there? Develop a strategic project plan, share the vision, work teams. That whole process is going to be talked about quite a bit by my colleague, Dr. Jim Harrington, and he'll be with us shortly. So again, Jim Harrington will have a lot to say about the implementation process. I want to focus on the notion of a value proposition here, and what I mean by that is we construct a value proposition, and this is a little paradigm developed by Jose Palomino, and it's just a statement of we provide products and services to target markets by delivering high-value outcomes because of new unique features that we have in our product. And the first step is to identify those products, services, what target markets, what high-value outcomes will accrue to the customers and why they will get there. So once we develop such a value proposition, we've got to define it, refine it, and confine it, because most of the time as we refine it, it grows too big and too complex, and we need to keep it simple. We refine it by talking to our clients, researching the industry, talking to industry gurus, reviewing technology, getting deep down, talking to our own employees for that matter, and getting deep down to, do we really have a suitable value proposition, and is it a no-spin proposition? What we end up with is what's shown in this little map, where we start out with a value proposition with what we've determined to be our target market needs. We then convert that to a sales proposition, and what are our customer needs? And again, the feed in from the customer is that we solicit their feedback and understand why people have really purchased from us. From that is what I refer to as creating a business. Now let's proceed. Once we create such a business, we need to find out whether we're really walking on solid ground. Well, does it fit the market? Can we finance it? Does the product make sense? Does it have a significant lifetime? Do we have the right kind of organizational structure to deliver that to the market? And I'm talking not about production processes, I'm talking equally about our management processes and how we reward people and what kind of culture we develop, that kind of feasibility testing. We also need to compare that notion to the environment, the business environment, what size, what product market segment, location, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and trends, emerging change, political, legal, social, environmental, technological. We have to review all of those components of our business environment and ensure that we're talking about a value proposition that continues to make sense. Once we get to one, we can start to implement it. And again, Dr. Jim will go through that whole process, but the starting point, we can still create value. If we identify some low-hanging fruit improvements, we can start to do that. We certainly can get started on involving the organization. What we really have to start worrying about is getting the values of everybody in the company aligned with the strategy. The value science of axiology, which I find is an important ingredient in getting a workforce on board. My wife had an interaction with Zappos recently, and Tony Scheich talks a lot about what he's done to breed that right kind of customer intensity service. My wife was very exasperated about a transaction, and suddenly the order taker, not the manager, not, nobody high up in the organization, she said, you've had a rough time. I'm just going to ship these shoes to you free. Period. No checks. That was their culture. But anyhow, there's a long journey in getting there. In fact, Tony puts people through training for 3 or 4 weeks, and when they're done with training, he offers them $2,000 to quit. His rationale is, if they would quit me for $2,000, I don't want them in the organization. So that's a notion of what's involved in creating a value system, a value discipline, a way of culture that will really make a strategy very difficult for someone else to emulate. Where do we finish? There is no finish line. It's a continual, ongoing process. We just have to keep going until we build. In contrast with the creating value slide I showed you a little bit ago, I want you to think about a creating value thing, and that once we get a sales proposition and a process to get there, we also have a fulfillment proposition, and we build a value-added network, much like Southwest did, and create value for our customer. As Bill O'Reilly would say, the spin has to stop here. We need to continue to build and persuade customers of our unique value proposition and how we fulfill it, and whether or not it will persist, in the sense that we have to continually test that proposition and that strategy against the environment that the business is in, against the external ability to change as the environment changes. One of my concerns with enterprise resource systems is you build in inflexibility that scares me in a lot of instances, as one example. So we just have to have a strategy that's capable of minor course adjustments, at least. And then finally, does it match organizational capability, what the market wants, manufacturing capability? We have to create and sustain a competitive advantage by building something that absolutely will work. So in that sense, the journey never ends. A final test that I find interesting, Jose Palomino prescribed a value proposition that he described as I3, and that is the value proposition innovative? Is it really something different that your customers have never seen before? Can it be stated in ways that are inspiring? Can customers be inspired to adopt your strategy? And finally, is it indispensable? Can you persuade them that they really need your final product, and can you offer proof? And if it meets those 3 tests, I would call it a killer value proposition, and the best strategies are going to be based on killer value propositions. With that in mind, here we are back where I told you I'd try to take us, that In order to achieve Porter's goal of a sustainable position, that we have to excel in one dimension and maintain thresholds in others. It's been a great journey, and I hope you travel an enlightened journey. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation as much as I have. Thank you for your time and attention. We certainly welcome any thoughts or questions. Have a great day.